friend.
Piece of shit. Alien! That is where you've always been wrong about me, Les.
Because that's what God is. Basically a God on earth.
I'm as human as anyone. I
like Vic very much, Lois.
Everyone.
You're
much stronger.
I wake up every morning and despite not knowing what to do, I put one foot in front of the other and I try to make the best choices I can. I screw up all the time. But that is being human. And that's my greatest strength.
You're not Superman.
Superman!
What would you say to the people of the world when asked what you stand for?
Superman. He's one of the oldest superheroes ever created and arguably the most popular, debuting back in 1938. So you'd think after 8 decades, we'd be able to answer the simple question, is Superman woke? See, I'm a bit of a DEI myself, so I should know a thing or two about being woke. But what does that even mean? So first we're gonna have to define woke, which means we're gonna have to do a little bit of research. Now before you click away because history is boring and you don't want to learn about the woke mind virus, I just want to say, most of this isn't gonna really make a lot of sense unless you sit through the history part. And secondly, if you don't, you're a weak bitch. I don't make the rules, I just enforce them. But if you do want to skip to the Superman part of the video, I will put a timestamp down below. The earliest known recording of the use of the word woke in any political sense is in 1860 with the Wide Awakes, an abolitionist youth group, basically an 1800s version of college protesters. A more modern rendition of the phrase pops up again in the 1930s with the song Scottsboro Boys by Huddy Ledbetter, referencing the Scottsboro Boys. I do recommend looking into them. There are far better explanations than I can give. There, the song was bookended by the phrase, stay woke, encouraging other black folk to stay aware of the dangers of white America.
So I advise everybody to be a little careful when they go along through that, but stay woke, keep their eyes open.
The term was popularized by the 1970s as a political reminder to other black people to stay informed and aware of the mechanisms in which institutions will try to oppress them. By the 2000s to 2010s, the term became more widespread as a call to action against rising white supremacy and racial discrimination, highlighted by the unjust killing of Michael Brown. Not too long after this, the term was also adopted by feminists and LGBTQ activists to combat misogyny, homophobia, and unjust power dynamics. At this time, the word woke was pretty much solidified as meaning to be aware of social inequalities and injustices. Would have saved a lot of time to just look in the goddamn dictionary. So understandably, with the definition of the word being so easily accessible, and the history of it being so blatantly tied to the black leftist community, and later the leftist community in general, you would think that the people that use the term the most would be leftists, right? Right? Come 2020, right-wing opposition started to use the term mockingly to refer to anything progressive. Prior to this, their go-to word was SJW, and before that, it was feminist. By 2025, the word had been more often used by conservatives than leftists, and arguably lost all the meaning it spent 160 years making. Now, if you ask any conservative that uses the word what it means, they could not give you a concrete, all-encompassing definition.
How would you define woke as?
Let me start here. Yeah, I'm not good at defining woke. Okay. Let him do that, but yeah.
Woke is accepting everything that is evil. So, for instance, monster cans.
So with all the history out the way, and no clear modern definition of the word woke, how could we possibly define if Superman is woke? Well, I'll tell you, we listen to what right-wingers call woke. I mean, they use it so often, by now they have to be experts in woke. Doctors of DEI, if you will. Okay, so from what I've narrowed it down, from their very liberal use of the word, is that race swamps are woke. Prominent female roles or girl bosses are woke. Calling out corruption is woke. Being environmentalist is woke. Lead actors having political opinions is woke. Saying that you stand for more than just America is woke. Being anti-billionaire is woke. Being anti-Nazi is woke. I already know what you're gonna say. It's not about those qualities being present in media. It's about them being done poorly. No. They never specify this. In fact, there's several instances where they do label something as woke purely off the sight of a strong woman or a black person well before the media is ever released. This isn't about the quality of the traits, it's about them being present. Okay, now that I have an understanding of what these very fine people on that side define woke to be, let's see if there's any Superman media that might contain any of these qualifiers. It's all of them. I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. Following their parameters, all Superman media is woke. Superman 1948. The first Superman movie ever made has an original girl boss female villain that controls the entire criminal underworld. Fucking slay, queen! Superman and the Mole Men. Superman takes an anti-fracking stance and compares the unjust persecution of the Mole Men to that of Nazi stormtroopers. King shit.
It's a bird! It's a plane! It's
Superman, the radio show. Now I jumped the timeline a bit because those other two didn't really require much explanation, but this is the big one. The Adventures of Superman radio show was very influential to Superman as a character, introducing the concept of kryptonite as well as the phrase truth, justice, and the American way. The phrase was said by the show's announcer as part of the intro during World War II to rally people against the Axis powers, and was subsequently dropped after the war, which, contrary to popular belief, was not part of Superman's identity. So when you hear a so-called Superman fan say something like,
The only Superman movie that I have ever seen that uses truth, justice, and the American way is the original 1978 Superman. This is not just a throwaway line. It is deeply important to the character of Superman.
And the truth, justice, and the American way is everything.
you could respond with, "No, Ben and Dean, you fucking idiots. That phrase was never used in the comics prior to then, and was only used as political propaganda. The very thing you don't like." But anyway, there's one other thing the Superman radio show did that we'll come back to, I promise. Superman the movie. So, this movie is the Superman movie. When you say Superman, people think of this man with his chiseled jawline and beautiful smile. I think I love this man. Anyways, we see a lot of discussion around this movie, especially when comparing it to the new James Gunn interpretation, which we'll get to. Now, this movie has been around for almost 50 years now, so outside of your stray opinions, it should stand to reason that most of the discussion and analysis of this film should be well informed, right?
Alrighty, folks, so I watched the new Superman, and I have many, many thoughts.
It's you! It's you!
I'm not going to get into how Ben is a fake Superman fan that hasn't even watched the very movie he's talking about. There is a fantastic Nerdsync video about that very thing that you should go watch. But what I do want to get into is a statement that Ben makes. Specifically this.
The only Superman movie that I have ever seen that uses truth, justice, and the American way is the original 1978 Superman.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice and the American way.
This is not just a throwaway line. It is deeply important to the character of Superman.
You see, what Ben leaves out is the rest of the goddamn scene. You see, the scene goes as follows. Lois asks Superman,
"Why are you here? There must be a reason for you to be here."
To which he replies,
I'm here to fight for truth and justice and the American way.
And Ben just cuts it off here. You see, if you just simply press play, Kidder's Lois Lane
We're
rebuts,
gonna end up fighting every elected official in this country.
directly making light of the very notion and an inherently political jab at the American government, which, at the time of the script being written, was a Republican presidency, not to mention the villain is an evil, greedy billionaire. Ben Shapiro doesn't know shit about Superman. Now these next couple we can speed right through. Superman 2. Portraying men as sexual predators and dumb brutes? Seems pretty woke to me. Superman 3. This movie is basically Superman playing second fiddle to Richard Pryor's antics. More like super replacement theory. Superman 4 and the Quest for Peace. In this movie, Superman is expressly environmentalist at the behest of Christopher Reeve and his political beliefs. Talk about woke for Reeve. Superman Returns. Once again, the villain is an evil, greedy billionaire. Also, Superman gets caught. Man of Steel. Oh boy, is that a race swap Perry White? Batman v Superman. Oh boy, is that a strong female hero saving a defenseless cis white dude? Superman the Animated Series. The episode The Late Mr. Kent examines corruption in the Metropolis justice system, going as far as to execute the corrupt officer that quote-unquote killed Clark for being a whistleblower. The comics. Early Superman comics had him fighting the wealthy elite as well as rich warmongers. He's incredibly supportive of his bisexual son. Also, in Action Comics #1, he literally calls himself the champion of the oppressed. But what I really want to take a moment to talk about is a comic I personally love, and is, in my opinion, the best Superman comic, and that is Superman Smashes the Klan. This comic released in 2019, but the story is much older than that. You see, back in the 1940s, there was this live radio show called The Adventures of Superman. See, I told you we'd come back to it. This radio show helped fight the Ku Klux Klan. In 1946, this man, Stenton Kennedy, snuck into white supremacist meetings, including the KKK, specifically noting that there was an awful lot of police and politicians also in attendance. Gee, why is this so common in comics? And real life? Since he couldn't go to the cops or local politicians, he instead pitched the idea to the radio show that Superman fight the KKK, and use the information he received to not only expose the Klan's secrets, but also highlight that they're a bunch of fucking losers. And thus we got the Klan of the Fiery Cross story. And this series of episodes actually led to lower recruitment numbers in the Klan, because people started to realize they're a bunch of fucking losers. This story was then loosely adapted into a comic book in 2019 that covers the story from the perspective of a young Chinese-American girl named Lan Xin, who goes by Roberta Lee. During this, Clark is also coming to the realization that he is a literal alien immigrant and confronting his own stigma against aliens. So not only is this an immigrant story, it's also the most anti-Nazi media I've ever seen. This, I think, is the quintessential Superman story. There's just so much to get into, and so much Superman content, and these qualifiers are so vague and meaningless that they can apply to almost anything. But regardless, we've shown that using their own definition, Superman media has been woke since the very first comic. But the question still remains. Is Superman still woke? Superman 2025. Now there's two ways we can answer this. We could use the official definition, or we could use the conservative, flanderized definition. Now if we use the latter, we could point to things like Perry White is once again race swapped, Mr. Terrific steals the show, Superman is beaten by a Hispanic woman, and then another Hispanic woman saves the day in the end. And I know you're thinking I'm probably strawmanning their opinions, but no, you could listen to what they are saying.
Don't try to tell me that this movie isn't woke or not political. If you think that, go screw yourself. It is. There's lesbian girl bosses running around. Every single person in Metropolis is Indian. Mr. Terrific was some black dude. He had more screen time than Superman. Lex Luthor, who is terrible and gay, by the way. This is not hyperbole. This is not rage bait. This movie is a disgrace to filmmaking.
That guy is a massive fucking loser. But let's take a moment to examine the film a little deeper using the official definition. The core conflict of this movie is not about Jarhanpur and Baravia, or Superman and Ultraman, or even Superman and Lex Luthor. The core conflict in this movie is Superman and cynicism. Both on screen and in the real world, the idea that Superman, or anyone for that matter, could do good just for the sake of good feels foreign, alien, queer even. In this film, Superman's motivations are constantly called into question, even before the Jor-El twist. When asked about why he would intervene in the invasion of Jarhanpur by Baravia, Superman passionately explains, because people were going to die. No political reasoning, no personal vendetta, just an effort to preserve life. Superman in this movie is a biocentrist, someone that believes in the sanctity of all life, human, alien, or squirrel. He's constantly fighting to protect all life. You could almost call him pro-life, but not in the conservative, I believe in the life of the fetus until it's born, where I will then deprive it of access to food, healthcare, and housing type of way. Anyways, for someone to be humanist, let alone biocentrist, they have to have this little thing called basic human empathy. This is what allows us to understand and feel for our fellow man. You know, be empathetic. And with that, logically, you will be aware of their social inequalities and injustices. Wow, deja vu. We see in this movie, when Lois is grilling him about his intervention, he argues in favor of the Jarhanpurians, as well as talks down to the genocidal dictator of Baravia. He cares deeply about every civilian that crosses his path. Like Malik Ali, or Mali, as he's called, who gave him some free falafel and was murdered for his kindness. And you know what Clark does? He writes a front-page paper calling him the hero. A man with no family and no one to miss him, saying that giving Superman some free food was the greatest honor in his life and was willing to sacrifice himself just to keep Superman's identity secret. I don't want to have to dwell on how Jarhanpur and Baravia are very Palestine and Israel coded. One, because it's incredibly obvious, and two, there's been so many other videos that have gone into that subject far better than I could, and I will link them in the description below. But just know, it's there. You can't ignore it, and you can't deny it. So here we are with James Gunn's Superman, a film that's very blatantly pro-Palestinian, pro-immigration, and pro-American. So as I've explained, woke is about fighting for truth, like for the Scottsboro Boys or the Central Park 5. Woke is about fighting against injustices, just like the abolitionists did, just like Martin Luther King did, and just like the protesters against ICE have. And woke is about fighting for gay people, trans people, black people, women, all minorities to be able to live their truth, their justices, their American way, their way. And I like to believe that that is the better tomorrow that Superman fights for. And is that woke? Yeah, and that's good. So what do we gain from being anti-woke? Being ignorant of injustices, letting the weak and poor struggle while the rich gain power, persecuting others just because they look different, because they worship a different religion, because they choose to love who they want to love. How can you advocate for such and still claim that you love Superman? So James Gunn didn't make Superman woke. He's always been woke. And that's what makes him super. This video took me a bit of time to make. I saw Superman on July 10th, and I started this video about like 3 days later. I was just very passionate about this because, funnily enough, I was not a big Superman fan. I really did not like him after Man of Steel, and I didn't really understand the character until I picked up Superman Smashes the Klan, and I started to really appreciate him. And then this movie came along, and it was one of the best superhero movies I ever saw. So after so long of superhero media that was just so full of pessimism and cynicism and morally gray, it felt so refreshing to see a hero not be afraid to be goofy, not be afraid to wear his underwear on the outside, not afraid to be kind in a fandom, in a world full of hate. So when Lois told Clark he can't be punk rock because he sees the beauty in everything and he trusts everyone, and he says, maybe that's the real punk rock, it moved me. And I would hope that it moved you too. In other news, I'm still working on that Doom Patrol video. I promise it'll be out. But before that, I do have another video planned that's unrelated that I really think you guys will like. But until then, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, give it a like. If not, don't. Nobody's forcing you. And I hope to see you all next time. See you later.